comes in through individual income tax or through sales tax. And it only makes sense that we need to have everybody working in this state. Because if everybody's working and we have more money coming in through their individual income tax and more money coming in through their sales tax. So I am a big proponent of figuring out ways to get people back to work. Liz and I went the other day to a manufacturing day on the west side of Evanston, where they were talking about that they have jobs available, but they don't have people with the skills to match them. So I'm a big proponent of using junior colleges to have training for those students to be able to take those high-tech, advanced technology jobs, manufacturing jobs.
Just a quick follow-up. Daniel Bisson's answer referred to broadening the base of sales tax, which is legislative code speak for either selling more stuff or expanding the sales tax to services, which actually advanced legislatively a session or so ago. Very quickly, it's more or less a yes or no, would you favor expanding the sales tax to services such as lawyers? And if so, which services?
No new taxes until the legislature gets the message they can't write checks.
Can't hear you. You gotta speak up the phone.
It's what I said before. No new taxes until the legislature gets the message they can't write checks on our checkbook anymore.
I think it's very difficult to look at raising more taxes at this time.
I have to agree with Eric. No new taxes.
No new taxes, we just can't afford to be taxed more in the state.
Something we agree on with the Democrats. I like Eric's thing about if someone's drinking, don't give them a drink. Again, we can't give them more money right now until they prove they can spend responsibly the money they already have. I mean, progressive tax, give them more money, they spend more money. Look at New York, they have higher tax rates. They're just as bankrupt, so no.
Well, all I can tell you is in Evanston, what we're trying to do to broaden the base is to have more stores selling more goods.
That is a third way out. Thank you. Okay, this goes to something that came up a little earlier, and Robin will start this one off. Can you name one or two election reforms, campaign finance or any other type of election reform that we can count on you to fight for? And so the second part of the question is a yes or no. If the Senate, the U.S. Senate, passed an amendment to the U.S. Constitution that reverses Citizens United, would you vote to ratify it?
I can answer the second part first, yes.
You can answer them in any order you want.
To get rid of Citizens United. I think that's really completely changing the way we have elections in this country right now, and in a very, very dangerous way. I believe that there is too much money in electoral politics. I think that I actually support public funding for campaigns. I think there should be strict limits for fundraising from other sources. I think that we spend way too much money in elections on TV, and that the only people that benefit are the people who own those TV stations. So I really think that we need to take the money out of politics. You know, in Arizona, they have people they have a various limits, and they also have the way to get on the ballot is you have to go around and collect your fives, which is $5, and so that you know that somebody really wants you to be in office. But I also, as I said, I put in a bill for term limits for legislative leaders. And I think that they should not, there should be a limit on how long leadership can be in power.
This way. Thank you.
Robin, it's great you put in that bill. Does that mean you won't vote for Mike Madigan? If you get to Springfield again, would you speak with us? There's your answer. You know who's going to be.
You can have your 15 seconds after if you want.
You know. Funding. Right now in the state of Illinois, you and I as individuals are limited in what we can give to any candidate, but the heads of the parties can give unlimited amounts. So contributions are made to the heads of the Democratic and the Republican Party, and they can dole out money to whoever they want without limits. That's got to be changed. That's a incumbent protection program and a way of cohering the power of these party classes. Redistricting is another reform. Some of our district boundaries are just ludicrous and make no sense. Citizens United, Robin was absolutely right. Absolutely right. The decision made no sense.
Well, I supported the contribution limit legislation that was passed a few years ago. I think it is inadequate in several ways. First of all, the limits are simply too high. Indeed, they are so high that they are rarely even relevant. Very few contributions that were made prior to the enactment of the contribution limits would have run afoul of this law. Second of all, they include a significant loophole. Legislative leaders like House Speaker and Senate President can make unlimited contributions to legislative candidates. This has the effect of increasing the power of those leaders, since not only can they make unlimited contributions, but now no other entity may do so, which means candidates are even more beholden to the leaders to finance their campaigns. I strongly support closing this loophole and in fact sponsored legislation to do it. One of the first things I did in Springfield was to file a constitutional amendment that would limit the number of terms someone can serve in a legislative leadership position like House Speaker or Senate President.
Jeff, can I ask a question? Dan has been remarkably prescient in predicting the questions that are going to be answered. Did you get a prior notice?
No, I can guarantee you that no person up here had prior notice of any of these.
Remarkable that she's got the answers there.
The mayor just has got these answers in her head. She didn't need the paper. No, I think we're all. Obviously, the money corrupts. I said that earlier. I'd love to do anything that would keep the money down, but I think it's kind of disingenuous, a little hypocritical now that Democrats are whining a little bit about this new campaign financing because the corporations now can give big money when all along the teachers' unions were funding them to the hill and they didn't say much. So I would be very for term limits, not just for leaders in leadership positions. Let's term limit out the damn politicians. They don't need to stay there that long. We could maybe even set it so many years in government, 6, 8, 10, pick a number and get them out. One tax that I would support, how about a campaign tax? Talked about all these, I'd never heard of politicians come and say, let's tax their campaign funds. Let's remove the nonprofit tax status of the campaign funds and put a tax on it. They love taxes. You know what, for the libs, we'll make it progressive. So the higher, more money you got in your campaign fund, we'll tax it higher.
What about Citizens United? You didn't answer that part of the question.
Citizens United? I'm not even sure all the aspects of the bill, just for campaign, allowing tax to 5,000 per person, 10,000 corporation. I'm for limiting all money. I think, like I said, money corrupts. The bill specifically, I don't have the information exactly what's intended, but if it means limiting the funding of politicians, I'm all for it.
I appreciate the assist from the audience, but we'll try and keep the dialogue up here. Thank you. Okay. Speaking of another budgeting issue, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Laura.
Citizens United was a Supreme Court decision that said that corporations are like individuals when it comes to freedom of speech, and donating to campaigns is freedom of speech, and that's why we're seeing single individuals donating millions of dollars to mostly federal campaigns. I am the clerk in Northfield Township, and at our annual town meeting, we voted to put a non-binding referendum on the ballot to overturn Citizens United. And it's an educational referendum to get the word out there, because there are a lot of people who don't really understand the gravity of the issue and how money is really taking over many of our federal campaigns and our federal elections. When it comes to state campaigns, I really feel we need to give the State Board of Elections more enforcement powers so they can make sure that if people don't follow the rules, that they will be penalized as a result of it.
Thank you, and I apologize for that, Laura. This one goes to you, actually, to start off with. The Department of Natural Resources budget is targeted for a budget level in the fiscal year 2013 that is $70 million less than what it was just 2 years ago, and that follows years of slashes. Is that an appropriate level or something you would work to reverse? And on the subject of the environment, I'm sorry, it's a two-part question. What is Illinois' top environmental issue that you will fight to address?
Well, first, I wasn't allowed to answer the previous question.
Okay, now I apologize.
However,
I missed the middle too.
if you were, I just assumed that I already answered it before because I actually did answer it before. As I said, I am for hard term limits for every legislature, and I am for a public funding option that each individual state house or state senate can reject, and I think that would solve some of those problems. Okay, on to the environment.
But that's Laura's question.
Oh, sorry.
I find the massive cuts to DNR very disturbing. We only have one environment, and once that environment is gone, it's not coming back. Some of the biggest issues I think facing our state environmentally right now are pollutants when it comes to issues like fracking. We also have an issue going on in part of the state where it comes to should they open up a clean coal burning plant. I think environmentally we need to look for other sources of power that are going to benefit both the individual and the environment. We see so many kids now facing issues with allergies and asthma, and so much of that is environmental. So if we don't start working on it now and protecting our environment, we're just going to have more problems in the future.
Thanks. Kyle, DNR budget and your top environmental priority.
Well, you know, if we, if our budget wasn't being consumed by Medicaid and pensions, we actually might have some money to fund the environment. And there's another thing about the environment that's really disgusting. It's called the school system. Great inventions, leaps of technology happen because we have good teachers. Our education system, especially in the math and science, is absolutely terrible. And as I said, we need to reform that part of the system. I think 4 years of math for every high school student would also be appropriate. And one of the few areas that I might increase funding would be for the Illinois Math and Science Academy, so we can have some additional campuses throughout the state, because Mr. Anderson of Netscape was a graduate of there, and if we had a lot of graduates who would start companies in Illinois, I don't think we'd be talking a lot about all these tax hikes.
So I think the cuts to DNR were very unfortunate. The other day I was talking to a constituent, and they suggested that Illinois actually charged for its state parks a small fee. And they said, I would rather pay a small fee than have the parks closed. So I think that might be one option to look at to help increasing DNR's budget. I know that that was on the table last year, and I think that we should look at something like that, because it is very valuable to be able to use the resources of the state. Environmental. So in terms of the environment, I've been working very hard on renewable energy. I think that that is going to help with global warming and other factors, but I think that that's really what we need to do for the future. We need to stop using oil and gas and really look at increasing the percentage of renewable energy that's used in Illinois.
Not at this point.
No, I'm going to have to correct this.
Well,
The
Kyle,
state did impose a fee for state parks. The problem was it's unenforceable. So you're supposed to, when you go to a
is this supposed to be in response to your opponent's statements? Otherwise, this becomes a free-for-all.
I think it's important that when somebody makes such an egregious error, I think that has to be corrected.
We'll move on. Mr. Lieberman.
I'm a card-carrying member of both wonderful dog parks in Evanston, and I pay a fee in there. I thank you for those parks. And my dog and I spend a lot of happy time there. Yeah, so, yeah, fees for parks, it's worth it in my mind. Let me talk about what the big unspoken environmental threat is in Illinois. It's a pet project of mine. I'm the executive director of Evanston GMO Watch. We're concerned about genetically modified organisms. Illinois has been turned into a sea of mono farms, corn farms, from where my mom lives in Galena all the way down to the southern tip. It's killed family farming. It's killing bees. Beekeepers are being told in northern Illinois to move to Wisconsin if they want to raise bees. It's hurting us all. We don't have a sustainable food supply in Illinois on our own because of our corn and Monsanto and Roundup and all of that. That's an environmental project that has to be tackled. Don't eat GMO food.
Daniel, this has been endorsed by the Sierra Club, which I believe speaks for itself. He has also been very helpful to the city of Evanston, as has Robin Gable, and the Citizens for a Greener Evanston in reducing our carbon footprint, which we have successfully done. So thank you, Robin and Daniel, for all your help.
I think the budget cuts are obviously an unfortunate outcome of bad decisions made by leaders over a number of years, so we gotta live with it. We're stuck there, we're losing money, we gotta make cuts. I think the most important thing for Chicago probably is, because we are a highly congested city, the air pollution. So whatever we can do to reduce that. Obviously, we've got the greatest freshwater supply right out beside us. We don't want to tarnish that. But I think Robin and everybody on the Democratic side who gets so in love with these green deals has got to really wake up. I mean, maybe she'll have a windmill on her car. We're pulling her down the road someday soon. But I live in the real world, and we get 40% of our energy from coal here in the state. The other half is about from nuclear. You know, I used to work in the oil industry. Shot glass full of gasoline propels your car down the road. They haven't found a way to make that better yet. So I'm all for newer forms of energy, but when the government gets in the way and starts funding these, a la Solyndra, a la solar power, and they're getting a lot of corporate donations to their campaign from it, you got to question the green industry very hard.
Okay, this will be the last question from this side of the podium. Polls and comments we've received indicate that voters in this area believe that General Assembly leadership has too much power over who gets elected and what bills get considered. What changes in leadership or rules will you commit to, if any, in order to make the General Assembly more responsive to other stakeholders? And Kyle, we'll start with you.
I've already answered that question many times. Term limits. As I said, once you've, for instance, if we had term limits, Mr. Madigan would have been gone from the legislature a long time ago. And as I said, I think that is the best solution to getting rid of some of those abuses.
Term limits is a reasonable solution. We do have term limits at the federal level where you could serve as speaker for 4 terms, so 8 years, and that way you get leadership throughout the years.
We have one man rule here in the state. We've had it for a while. It's not just one party rule. So everybody in the room who's typically voted Democratic, you've got to really ask yourself, the last 20, 25 years, has it gotten better? It's got incredibly worse in the last 10 years. So I mentioned earlier, unfortunately, we need to term limit people out. I mean, the voters haven't done a very good job about getting rid of people that are crashing the ship. So unfortunately, because of the apathy of the voters, I think we need to term limit people out. I don't care if it's 1, 2 terms, whatever. I don't plan on going down, if I'm lucky enough or unlucky enough, depending on who you talk to go out to Springfield and work with this legislature. But you know, I'm not there to make a living off the state. I'm not going to take a pension. I'd love to just serve 2 terms and turn it over. we have too many people who go down there and want to make a career out of this, and you're seeing the results of that. So I'm for anything that limits the power of the leaders, the leadership in term limits.
Well, I feel I also answered this already. Daniel has filed a constitutional amendment to limit the number of terms someone can serve in a legislative leadership position, as in House Speaker or Senate President. And I think he's absolutely right, and I think that's desperately necessary.
It's simply wrong to talk about reform and changing things in Springfield without talking about removing Mike Manning. That's the single most important thing to do. He has control of this disaster we're in for so many years, for 2 decades. Getting him out. I personally, I forget I'm a candidate, I'm personally perplexed why good people like Robin Gable, who's done so many great things in her life for the state, and I applaud her for that, but she's still not able to commit to vote against Mike Madigan if she gets to Springfield. I don't understand that. I simply don't understand what power this man has over her.
I thought we were talking about you, though.
About me? What about me? I wouldn't vote for him.
Well, Robin, you get the last say.
Thank you. So I believe the question was about the rules in the legislature.
What changes in leadership or rules would you commit to in order?
Leadership rules. Okay, I already stated my opinion and my action around leadership. I think there should be term limits on leadership. And in terms of rules, it's a legislative body. There are so many rules, it's so complicated, it's a book this thick. But I have to tell you, one thing that has frustrated me in Springfield has been that leadership can hold your bills in rules, a committee called rules, and not let them out. And I would like to see a rule changed that all the bills were allowed to come out to committees, to substantive committees, so at least your idea can have a fair chance of being discussed and voted on in committees.
Okay, our final question will come from the candidates. Each candidate can ask a question of 30 seconds or less of their opponent, and the opponent can have a minute to answer. And Robin, we'll start with you.
So I think in one of the questionnaires that you filled out, you said that you serve in a legislative body as a committee, as some kind of committeeman or something. I was just wondering if you have ever served in an elected position, and if you have, what kind of legislation have you put forward?
First of all, I've represented school boards and municipalities as an attorney in drafted legislation. I served as the zoning board of appeals in a city in DuPage County. I was Democratic precinct committeeman, and I was selected by the Democratic Party to run for state's attorney in 1988.
Any legislation? How many accomplishments do you have in those books?
Yeah, those are all things I did, Robin. I don't know what the point is. If I haven't held a position like you, but I wouldn't perform it like you either.
Mr. Lieberman, the next question goes to you.
I've asked Robin the pivotal question in my mind. If by some chance you return to Springfield and Mike Madigan's name is put up for Speaker of the House, will you vote for him?
The one time I had the opportunity to vote for leader of the House, there was only one name that was put up there. And I voted for the one name that was up there. To me, if you're going to vote against, why would I vote against when there's only one name on there?
You can vote president, that's why.
You could, well,
You can vote president.
Please.
Thank you, excuse me. You can vote president.
at this point, the rules in the House, I'm just going to say that at this point, that's the only name on the ballot. And if one of my colleagues was interested in running, I would look at that as an opportunity.
Why don't you put your own name on it?
I've only been in there one term. It's not suicide mission.
Eric, that's not open to this. Kyle?
I'd like to repeat Eric's question to Laura Fine. If she is elected, will you vote for Mike Madigan as Speaker of the House, even if unopposed?
I have not thought past November 6th because I need to be elected first. As I have said before, I'm there to represent my community. I wouldn't have spent all these hours meeting people and talking to people if I was there to represent a party or a person. So let November 6th come and then we'll be able to figure it out from there.
Please ask the audience to maintain respect for all the candidates up here. Laura, it's your question.
Kyle, you've never addressed social issues. Where do you stand on a woman's choice and also on gun control?
I am pro-choice, number one. Number two, as you know, the district has a large number of Holocaust survivors. One of my first political actions was going to the village of Skokie to prevent gun control, because a lot of this legislation they're proposing in 1984 was as traumatic for many of these Holocaust survivors as the Nazi March. Because many of these people do remember taking the guns away when they were in Germany and other countries. So, as I said, I don't want to put any more trauma on the Holocaust survivors. They're old, they're in their late 80s and 90s, and I think it would be a terrible thing to have them relive these terrible memories.
I can't hear you.
I did not understand the response. Does that mean you're in favor of conceal and carry?
Yes, I am.
Glenn, is your question?
I have to kind of chuckle whenever Mike Madigan's name comes up, and I hear the rants. I feel like I'm listening to an episode of Sopranos. No one wants to speak, don't talk. Since Dan is not here, I could throw out that question to you too. Dan, would you vote for Mike Madigan if he's the speaker? And oh, that's true too. So darn it. See, that made it slip up. Okay, would you vote for John Cullerton as Speaker of the Senate? President, Speaker, whatever.
Well, I can guarantee you that Daniel Biss would not vote for Mike Madigan because it wouldn't be possible. I do not know his position on John Cullerton.
You get to ask
All right. As you may know, Glenn, or you may not, we've had a homicide in Evanston recently, and we have a problem with too many guns in this community. So it's a major concern in this community to know whether you would support the carrying concealed weapons, and whether you are supporting a woman's right to choose, or whether you support restrictions on a woman's right to choose.
Dan? I am pro-choice. I love choice. I love life. I mean, these euphemisms are crazy things. Who's not pro-life? Who's not pro-choice? Sure, I'm pro-choice. I believe in a woman's right to choose. End of story. I think the restrictions we have in the book are fine. On the gun vote, I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe we all should have the right to carry a firearm if we want, or own a firearm. As far as goes to concealed carry, there's 49 other states that have concealed carry. The gun ban was overturned by the courts here in D.C. I think it's only going to be a matter of time before they'll overturn any kind of concealed carry. There are two types of concealed carry. There's a shall issue and a may issue. I don't know how many of you out there know that. A shall issue means you pass the test, do some testing, you get a gun. You can carry it on the street. I'm not ready to go that far. I'm not a gun expert, but I think the may issue is a little more appropriate. I think several states have that, where you pass tests, you pass certain training, and maybe you have a certain need, whether you're a diamond dealer, you have a spouse that's training, or something that gives you some extra need that you should have to carry that gun on your person. So I think if you look around the states, all the people were worried about the other 49 states. There would be massive people like the OK Corral walking around shooting each other. It hasn't happened. So I think the fears are unfounded, and the courts are probably going to overturn it anyway. So I think we should all sit down as rational people and figure out a way that we can craft a